We're Ace Comicals. My name's Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Rahul. Let's get started. Hi guys, it's episode number 17. We read stuff, we talk about stuff. Another 2 weeks has passed. We came, we saw, we read stuff, and you know the drill by now, so let's do it. Today I'm joined by only Rahul, because Leon appears to be trapped in the danger room. We don't know who with. That could be, I'll leave that up to your imagination, the X-Men of your choice.
Yeah, I suspect it's Jubilee just because he wouldn't tell us about it and be complaining about it if it wasn't anyone else but Jubilee.
I think he
if you were stuck in the danger room with anybody else, it would be hype, right?
No, what if it was Cyclops?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So he's stuck in the danger room with Jubilee and... Oh god, that sounds like a crap evening. Well, we're not having a crap evening because I'm trapped in my living room with you talking about comic books. Which
Indeed, yes. I'm trapped in the attic, surrounded by comic books. So, Ray, since the last time we spoke to you, it's been a long time.
Feels like it's been forever, yeah. Been on holiday, took my parents to Italy. That was pretty cool. Didn't actually get up to reading many comics, but to get my daily dose of nerdery, I had a really nice day once where, for me, for holidays, it's all about eating.
Yeah.
So there was one day where I walked up to the top of a mountain, bought some focaccia that was there, somebody was selling some there, took out my Nintendo Switch, played Breath of the Wild, made Link walk up to the top of a mountain, and then eat some roasted apples. It was a double dose of climbing a mountain and eating food. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had a good holiday.
Nice. So, I guess when you got back, you had some time to get some reading in, right?
I've been trying. It's been a little bit more difficult than it normally is this week. This week it's been a bit more difficult than it normally is. I've been struggling to find time to read on the tube like I normally do. But I've fit some stuff in, so yeah, we've got stuff to talk about.
Cool. Again, plenty of reading in because somehow I've always got time for reading. Last week I found it a bit difficult to get enthusiastic about stuff that was out on the shelves. There was some really cool things, like there's two or three really cool things that came out last week that I was quite enthusiastic about, but it was like, I don't know, it wasn't like a normal week for me walking into the comic shop and being like kid in a candy store spoilt for choice, you know?
Yeah, I kind of feel that this week as well.
Yeah.
And I think I've been in a particular mood lately. Maybe it's just coming down off a holiday or I've been particularly stressed out, but I've just not been in the mood for reading like heavy, wordy, cerebral stuff, and it feels like that's all that's been out lately.
That's the great thing about comics. It doesn't have to be heavy, wordy, and cerebral because you've also got the fun, punchy, pow, colourful stuff.
It doesn't, and that'll go.
Yeah.
That'll explain why I've been going back a few weeks, or maybe like a month or so, to catch up on some of the more fun comic booky stuff that I've missed lately. But we can get to that in a bit. So
yeah. So
where should we start?
Let's start with Generation Gone number 2. Which I have picked up and read. And first thing I'm going to say about this, I'm loving the fact that they have continued this trend of making the front cover the first panel. Like the front cover itself, like the cover art is like literally the first panel or page of the comic. And that's where the comic begins. And then I think we addressed this last time as well. With the first issue, yeah.
How does it open this time?
So it opens this time, the girl... of the group, when they discovered their powers, the young girl from the group is flying, and she seems to be like completely amazed and surprised and like in awe of the fact that she can fly. She's like, holy fucking shit, I'm flying, tears streaming out of her eyes. I don't know if that's because she's not wearing goggles or because she's like, I'm actually flying. It's like kind of awesome. So Eleanor has discovered her power, and her power is flight, and this book is it's basically the three of them starting to discover the powers that they have been granted by the code. As well, if you've read the first issue, as I described previously, we've got this scientist who's working for the government, who's been working on his own pet project on the side, where he believes he can actually program superpowers into people and unlock things latent in human DNA and genetics, or reprogram people, hack people into having superpowers by getting them to read certain sequences of words and things like that, which is kind of a really cool concept. I quite like that. So you can hack people's DNA by getting them to take information in.
Cool.
Which is, yeah, I really like that. And I thought that was really, like, mind-bendingly Hideo Kojima. There is something really Hideo Kojima about that, you know. So
yeah, like the fusion of tech and organic and
and the
psychology,
high concept sci-fi type thing, you know. So he's leaked the code out to them. The last book ended with these guys hacking away, trying to get into the government, trying to get like secret government information so they could sell it and get money. Basically, so their whole plan was to hack into the military network, steal something, and sell it on, you know, like sell it online for a lump sum kind of thing. And they managed to come across this code, and they all read it, and shit happened. People were lying on sofas and stuff with, I don't know if it's blood or what, but it's like this black liquid seeping out of them. And then all of a sudden they wake up and Eleanor is flying. Eleanor can fly. The other two sort of discover their powers throughout this book as well, and it's got kind of a Chronicle feeling to it. The film Chronicle, with the three teenagers all discovering they all have powers. This kind of follows the same kind of line as that. At least this second book does, anyway, with the three of them testing themselves, and it ends with them deciding that, you know, there's a riot happening when they get back to the city, and it ends with them using their powers to help people and to kind of, you know, try and stop people from being hurt. They decide to use their powers. So two of the powers are revealed in this book. So we've got flight and then we've got invulnerability. But the third power, we're not quite sure what that is yet. They've given us some hints as towards what it could be, but they've not fully revealed it. It's like the slowest developing one. He seems to see things differently to people, is how I'm going to describe it so far. Differently to other people. So he sees things differently to ordinary people. Kind of like he can see things, I don't want to say slow motion, because that's not how he describes it. But yeah, he sees things differently to people, and I think his is going to have something to do with being able to anticipate actions, maybe, or time travel. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm going in the totally wrong direction. But again, it's the story's continuing in a great direction, and I'm still impressed by the artwork in the way that it has such a simplicity about it, but it still retains a high level of detail, especially in facial expression, and it's the way that it manages to convey mood in each panel as well, like the kind of general air you get, you know, like when you're in a room full of people and you can just kind of read the mood, and you know.
Yeah, the atmosphere.
Yeah, it conveys so mood, atmosphere. Yeah, atmosphere is a better word for it, but the way it conveys the atmosphere from each panel. And also, when we get outside shots, the way they manage to get across the environment. So there's a shot with some snow and like a half-frozen body of water and some trees, and you can feel. I can look at this panel and feel what it's like to be stood there, and it's like I can get that from the way that it's the way that it's drawn, the way that this panel has been drawn and colored. I can get that from that, and I think that's pretty cool that it manages to you know, have such a it's like a kind of a simplistic style about it, but at the same time it's enough, you know, which I really like. So yeah, I've
really been meaning to get to this. They've been in my stack since the first one came out, because you recommended it. I think this goes back into what I was, you know, touched on earlier about stuff that's a little bit too wordy to grip me straight away. I think I need to be in the mood for this. I might wait until there's a few, but then even that's intimidating on its own, where you've got, because these are pretty big books. They're a bit longer than the regular ones, aren't they?
No, yeah, they're not small comics by any means.
Yeah,
they
seem quite dense as well. So I'll definitely set aside time, certainly before the third one comes out, so we can talk about it, and then maybe when there's a few more in the bag, we can actually talk over some details.
Do it, because I need to be able to talk to somebody about this.
You say that about every comic, Greg.
I know.
Every single one that you love, you're like,
that's
I can't wait for you guys to catch up.
That's why I started this.
Later, I catch up.
That's why I started this podcast, so I can just talk about comics, because that's what I like to do. Speaking of comics, and speaking of things I like to talk about, the next thing I'm going to do is tell you that TMNT Dimension X has reached issue 5 and therefore ended. It's all done now.
Oh, it's the finale.
Yeah, issue 5 has dropped and we're all done, so sad face.
Oh, nice.
But it's amazing, so happy face.
Well, no, it's amazing for me because now I can read the entire thing in one go and not feel like I have to wait every month for it. So that's smiley face.
You see, I've been doing it. Well, it's once a week, not once a month. This thing's been like weekly.
Okay.
So it's been 1 to 5. It's been like a weekly event. So
wow.
Every week I've been getting a Turtles book, and it's been amazing. And I've loved this little jaunt from start to finish. Basically, of the 5, the stories in books 3 and 4 have been my favourites. We've got like book 3 being Ace Duck, who is kind of like a roguish character who he's an ex-fighter pilot, and he is in bad books with organised crime for destroying a weapons shipment. And when the Turtles get to his planet to find him, the whole planet is hunting him because there's a huge bounty on his head, and this planet is basically Planet Scumbag. So it's kind of like, you know, sort of Star Warsy Tatooine type thing where everyone's a bounty hunter or everyone's like a thief or whatever. It's kind of that kind of place, but it's not a desert. It's like a big city, and everyone's placing bets on everything. So every time something happens, every time a fight breaks out or whatever, people start waving money around, going, "Oh man, I want to put 100 on the big guy," you know. And Mikey sort of gets in with the betting bug, and he gets a little bit he wants to place a bet on everything, and I quite like I like it that he kind of fixates on things. So he gets fixated on this betting thing, and the other 3 are getting a little bit annoyed about it. But I think it's pretty good. And he strikes it big. He wins a load of money on the lottery. And in the end...
Well, so now that it's over, right?
Yeah.
If you had to say, just in one brief sentence without giving too much away, how would you describe it overall, like the general theme of this thing? TMNT Dimension X.
It's... How do I...
Put you on the spot a little.
Yeah, because I can't really sum it up in one word, because it's not...
No, one sentence.
One sentence. Okay, so sum it up in one sentence. It's got like this kind of like real classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles feel about it. So it feels very Turtles, and I like it. It just makes me happy that because it's such a removed from reality, and it's such a fan servicey classic story. You know, them bouncing from planet to planet.
Well, I think that's a perfect sentence just there.
Yeah.
It makes me happy because it's not quite reality. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll take that on board.
Well, I guess, yeah, and it's Turtles. I like Turtles, so I'm always going to love it. But yeah, I mean, the fourth book as well, my other favourite, is where it's like an alien wrestling federation.
Right.
And they have to bring back the head guy, kind of like the Vince McMahon of the Alien Wrestling Federation.
Okay.
And he's a tree.
Of course he is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the other cool thing about this is the fact that every person that they've got to bring back to testify against Krang hasn't exactly got clean hands themselves. So they've all done something a little bit shady, or they've all got something about them that's not as, you know, wholesome as you think they might be, kind of thing. Like Ace Duck is, I guess he's a little bit of a, you know, he's not really a team player. He's kind of like look out for number one type. And he's a little bit reckless. The Alien Wrestling Federation, the tree guy is cold hard cash, kind of unfeeling a little bit. Like he sold out his entire planet basically to Krang and got paid handsomely for it. And everyone's got something about them that's not quite, you know. But in the end, the Turtles managed to turn them around and get them on their side and get them to come back to testify against Krang in the big trial that's coming up. So I like it. And I like this, they paint this assassin out to be super badass. This assassin that's been following them across the universe, who Krang has hired to kill the witnesses before the Turtles can get to them. They paint him out to be, you know, a little bit menacing, a little bit badass, but he's actually kind of hopeless. He's like really rubbish at his job.
He's great at tracking, but bad at pulling it off.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I quite like that about it. And I like that each individual chapter, although worked on by a different team, each thing feels like it complements the whole. So a different team's worked on each book, but it's been incredibly consistent and cohesive. And as a Mikey fan as well, I feel like I've been served well with the way that Mikey's been in most of these books. So yeah, all in all, I was very impressed with TMT Dimension X.
Cool. And then what's lined up next for TMNT? If anything,
it's going to be the next issue of the ongoing, which is takes up where this finishes and gives us the trial of Krang.
Okay.
So yeah, because we got the issue that set all this up, and then we had these 5 weeks in between, and then we've got the next one now. So, well, actually, no, number one of this came out at the same time as the issue that set everything up. So it was issue 73, which was made this the longest running Turtles comic in the history of Turtles comics. And then issue 74 comes out next, which carries on where this wraps up, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, and we'll obviously get the rest of the trial of Krang. So Ray, did you read anything that we talked about last time? Yeah,
I intended to read everything, but my intentions never come to anything. So I read Mr. Miracle and Dark Knight's Metal. Those are the two that I found time for. Of the one, I think they were the two that you guys spoke the most highly of. I think there was a couple, Genius Cartel, which sounded really interesting. I just didn't get the chance to get onto. And I think you mentioned Redlands, which I haven't had a chance to buy yet. So when I get to one of those, I'll come back to you. But for now, so Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add to your guys' conversation. I think you touched upon everything. It's amazing. It's great. I'm deliberately keeping myself in the dark from who Mr. Miracle is, because I have no context for this. I'd never even. This is this is a bad card to be playing right now. But I have no idea what Kirby's New Gods are. Never heard of it.
But you usually hate being in the dark. That's one of your pet peeves as far as comics go. Usually, when I talk to you about comics, it's there's too much history.
I hate not having context.
Yeah. There's too much history there. No context.
But I think because it doesn't expect you to know a lot, and I feel like they've written it in a way that the mystery kind of adds to something here, because you start off in media res with this guy having committed a really horrifying act of self-harm, and it's the comic book is throwing it in your face using this typical old school golden age comic narration boxes, saying I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's basically mocking the concept. It's ironically mocking the concept of how great this guy is as he's self-harming on the bathroom floor. I was just hooked immediately. The only thing I'll say about it is, echoing what is normally Leon's sentiment, this is one where I'm still going to pick it up month to month because I'm curious as to what's happening, but I feel like I'd be even more gripped if I had the entire volume in front of me. I really feel that with this one. I feel like they've built it in a way that it would be massively better as a book as a whole. But I'm going to keep buying it month to month. I'm super pissed that I couldn't find issue 1 in the shops. It's sold out everywhere, and it seems to be really popular and worth quite a lot already. So I'm quite annoyed by that, so I'm going to go digging and hunting for issue number 1, which I doubt I'll find. I'm going to try and collect them going forward, because I think the covers are really interesting.
Yeah.
It would be nice to just own them, because like you were talking about, a cover number 1, which goes some way to explaining who his character is. I didn't realize that he was I assume an escapologist, a magician who escapes from things. The one thing I did glean from doing a bit of cursory research is that he's the embodiment of freedom. Is that right? That's something I read.
Yeah.
He, as a character in that setting, is the concept of freedom, which is it's an interesting thing. I've never seen that before, and to see what's meant to be a lofty god brought down to earth because of his own, I guess, insecurities or not knowing his purpose in the world or knowing his worth, that's a really interesting concept, and it feels like this is not even the prologue to the entire story. I feel like it's the first half of a prologue, which I think is telling, because I think it's a 12-issue arc overall. So super keen on seeing where it goes, and I think that's as much as I can add to your guys' already pretty comprehensive discussion last.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean,
issue.
you should definitely have a look and go back and check out. Do some reading about Jack Kirby's New Gods, because that is like a real. I guess it's like a real turning point in comics history, really.
Yeah.
It's when he got like pretty psychedelic, and it's kind of like real classic Kirby stuff. When people talk about Kirby, they talk about his New Gods stuff as well as his Marvel stuff, and the New Gods stuff is pure Kirby.
Well, I'm thinking I'll wait until this is finished in its entirety, and then go back and read that kind of stuff.
That is what people consider distilled Kirby, is the New Gods.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that on board.
Yeah.
I mean, 12 issues is basically a year from now, so I might have to reconsider. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way I can put it. It's what people consider distilled Kirby, because Kirby is pretty much everything weird and wonderful that you've read in comics from the 1960s that has his name on it. Anything cosmic and it's all sort of born from his kind of ideas. So, or partly his ideas anyway in some cases. But I guess New Gods is pure him. So that's what people associate with him, because it's all his.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely at some point.
It's like
it's definitely got my interest.
Yeah, no, you should go back and check it out, because it's really cool actually. From what I know about it anyway, from what I've read, because I can't say I'm massively versed in it, but massively well versed. But yeah, and Dark Knight's Metal. So I'd be interested to hear what you think of that, because
this is a weird one, man. I mean, because I like everything. I feel like I say this every time we record. I have no idea of any of the context for this particular book as well. Dark Knight's Metal. I have no idea what's going on. It talks about something 50,000 years in the past, and it's setting up some sort of like ancient mystery, and then it flashes back to current day where the Justice League are fighting some dude. And then, I mean, I love this contrived but awesome justification for the existence of like a Justice League Voltron mecha, which is fucking amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, that's brilliant. And that first, like the first 5 or 8 pages or whatever it is, it feels like the cold open to like an epic movie.
Yeah.
And then smashes directly into the title card as they do their first impact after having done their Voltron combination thing. And then I kind of started losing track of what the hell was going on.
So they've got back to Earth, but like this is stuff that was set up because there was 2 prologue comics before this.
Yeah.
So there was the casting, and there was what was the other one called? I've completely lost it.
You mentioned in the last issue that the last episode.
That
there are a couple of prologue issues that you can read if you want to be.
Yeah, I've not got them in front of me, and I've lost the title of the second one. So.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, unlike Mr. Miracle, where I don't feel like I need the context to enjoy this story, because it feels like it's a continuation of something that exists on its own. This feels like I've been dropped into the middle with all these characters, and maybe it doesn't help that I don't really know much about all the Justice League characters themselves. Maybe if I knew more about the Flash and whoever, I would enjoy it more. I don't really understand what's going on besides the Batman stuff and Superman stuff. And I guess a lot of it centers around Batman, because it goes back to the Batcave and him talking to Alfred about the happenings in Gotham.
Yeah, it's about stuff that was set up in things that that Snyder and Capullo set up way back in the New 52. So ideas that they had in the New 52 Batman run, they've now brought forward into this.
Yeah, because you talk about how there's various metals which are deep in the lore of DC Comics.
Yeah, the nth metal thing, and
yeah, which doesn't. I mean, it feels like it comes out of nowhere in this story, and you really do need the context.
Yeah.
But I will say this about it: that it has a really interesting ending. As somebody who I don't want to spoil where it goes, but I do have a vested interest in what happens towards the end of this story, and I think I'll be picking up on it month by month just based on that.
Yes.
See if that goes anywhere.
Yes. So it's I've got the titles now. It's the Forge and the Casting.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm kicking myself for getting that but no, they're
all metal related names.
Yeah, but it's so it basically sets up the fact that Batman has stumbled across this. He doesn't know what it is yet, but there's a dark multiverse. But in the forge and the casting,
by flipping over a poster, which I thought was I can't tell if that's genius or really crappy exposition.
It's genius. It's genius. Trust me.
When was the last time you flipped over a poster and the background was black?
It's genius. So yeah, they set it up in the forge and the casting, and it's to do with it's to do with nth metal, and it's to do with this dark multiverse, and it's to do with immortal beings, and tribes from the beginning of time, and the tribe of the bat. And you get the feeling that the tribe of the bat might have something to do with the dark multiverse, and because they sort of strayed from the path that the others followed. Basically, there's a evil force in this dark multiverse that has been looking for a way in for such a long time and has now found it. So it's now found its way in, and that's why that mountain has just all of a sudden appeared in Gotham, because it's found its way in and it's starting to bleed into this universe. And things are going to go off. Is the easiest way to explain it, is the simplest way to explain it. But it's not as convoluted as it first appears. So
I guess I'm just going to hold it.
It is something that you can take at face value, I think. Okay, yeah. So I mean, you know that poster that they flip over?
Right.
That is actually an official DC multiverse diagram that was actually done as like a map of the DC multiverse. It was published as a poster.
I did think it looked huge enough to be an official DC merchandise.
It is. Yeah. It's the actual multiverse poster. So you got the DC multiverse poster, and that's the actual poster. Obviously, on the back of that poster, there is no dark multiverse, but you know, that's where it comes from.
Concept.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool that they used it that way. It's like the map of the multiverse. So that's like the 52, and then you've got the dark 52 as well. Right. But yeah, it's super comic book. It's super DC in the way that it does that, as Leon mentioned. It's like DC being hyper DC. So
DCAF.
Yeah, DCAF. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I think if you stick with it, and maybe do a little, like with Mr. Miracle, like you're going to do your background reading on the New Gods. Maybe you do a little bit of like, or maybe just find. Maybe I'll explain it in full to you one day, or sit down and buckle up, and I'll give you like 4 hours of knowledge. Or
one day when it's all over, when we're old, when we're ancient men.
We haven't got time on this podcast for all of it, but or either that, or you can you could like, I mean, obviously you're going to be able to find out about this stuff, and I'm sure someone somewhere has compiled it and made it very easy.
Yeah, I think this is the epitome of I think I would enjoy it more as an entire book. Yeah.
So building on that, I picked up a bunch of classic Batman stories. So I picked up a trade, which is kind of like an anthology collection of Batman stories called Batman Dark Knight Dark City.
Okay.
And the main feature story, Dark Knight Dark City, is Batman versus the Riddler.
Wait, hang on. Before you get too into this, Dark Knight with a K or without a K?
Dark Knight with a K.
Okay, only because Dark Knight's metal is Dark Knights with an N, not a K. And that really confused me at first.
Yeah, it is a K. Yeah, so Dark...
Okay, cool.
You got me thinking there. I'm like, is it K? It's a K.
Sorry to interrupt.
I'm like digging through looking for the book. Yeah, it's a K. Definitely a K.
Yeah, have to be sure.
Yeah,
right?
So Dark Knight's Dark City. The first story is the main feature, which is the story's called Dark Knight's Dark City, and that is Batman versus the Riddler, and that compiles Batman 452 to 454, which is like 3 books, and then after that it's Detective Comics 629 to 629 to 633, which is a combination of several stories. We've got a story called The Hungry Grass, a story called The Executioner Wore Stiletto Heels, a story called The Golem of Gotham, and a story called Identity Crisis. So we'll start with Dark Knight Dark City. Basic premise is the Riddler's on the loose. He's leaving riddles for Batman to follow and chase. But what it turns out he's actually doing is preparing Batman to be the human bat, a sacrifice to a demonic force called Barbatos, or a demon called Barbatos. Barbatos, who is you do the ritual of the bat to summon Barbatos, basically, and Barbatos is obviously a demonic force who can grant ultimate power to, you can control Barbatos. If you do it correctly and you sacrifice the human bat, you can control Barbatos.
What does the ritual involve?
The ritual involves the sacrifice of someone who's been prepared in a specific way. So they have to go through certain trials to be prepared, and then you sacrifice them, and then you can control Barbatos, basically. That's how you summon them. So what happens is, I mean, way back in the history of Gotham, they had already... a group of men had already summoned Barbatos in the basement of a farm building when Gotham was but a small township in the days of, like the beginnings of America, basically. But they decided not to continue with it and not to continue with the ritual. The ritual got interrupted and they just got spooked by something, and they decided to just leave it as is, and they just bolted the door shut on the basement and never returned. The Riddler's obviously come across an old book, like a diary of one of the people who was involved in this, and has decided that he's going to finish this off because it will grant him ultimate power. What he's decided is that Batman will be the human bat. So he's laid out this trail of riddles for Batman to follow in order, and each time Batman completes a riddle, it's also part of his preparation. And by the end, he's prepared to be sacrificed.
Does he know that this is happening to him?
No, he doesn't know until the end.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds cool.
It is. It's a very cool story. In the typical late 80s, early 90s way, it's fairly gratuitous in the way that it puts this stuff across, and it's quite. I like it. I mean, I think it's a great story, and I like. The main reason I picked up this trade actually is because of this story, and it's because this story contains things that are referenced by Dark Knight's Metal. So they mentioned the demon Barbatos in Dark Knight's Metal. This is where the idea comes from. The whole ritual of the bat thing to summon Barbatos. Barbatos being the force in Dark Knight's Metal that has come to Gotham and has bled into the from the Dark Multiverse. I think Barbatos is going to turn out to be because you've got like the Dark Knights that are coming from the Dark Multiverse, and each Dark Knight kind of has their equivalent in the Justice League. I think Barbatos is going to be the Batman who laughs, but I'm not too sure. Which, I mean, if you read about Dark Knight's Metal, you've got several different characters from the Dark Multiverse. As I said, each one has their equivalent in the Justice League, and they're all kind of facsimiles of Batman-ish with powers of said Justice League character. And you've got the Batman who laughs, who is the most interesting one and the one that we kind of know the least about. And I think Barbatos is going to be like another name for the Batman who laughs, basically, is what it's going to turn out to be. But I like the fact that they've resurrected this relatively cut and dry storyline. This like relatively, this relatively I don't know how important it was back, but I'm going to say relatively unimportant arc that people don't usually talk about. They've resurrected an idea from that, which is a really cool idea, and brought it forward to today and used it in something. I really like that. And that's the main reason I read it, actually, to get an idea of where this Barbatos thing came from, because I sort of heard whispers that it had something to do with this arc, and this is where they kind of pulled inspiration from. The other stories that are included in the book, you've got a story called The Hungry Grass, which is a bit X-Files. So you've got this guy who seems to be holding Gotham over a barrel, because he seems to be able to make things happen that are without leaving a trace. Basically, he can if someone's been killed on a street corner with an axe, he can make you relive that event.
Oh, okay.
And he's doing this from, he's like sitting there in his like apartment room. He's like in typical X-Files fashion, you've got this loner who's been wronged and decided to take it out on the city. And he's got this power, and he's going to use it to do that, to sort of exact his revenge. And it's got a real X-Files-y line about it, because it's quite it all stems back to this grass that comes from the specific place in Ireland where an ancestor of his died, and she was kind of a white witch, and on her death, she infused this grass with the power to make people relive the pain that she felt on that spot when she was dying of hunger. And because he's got this grass and he's took loads of it back in bags through the airport and brought it back to Gotham, if he spreads it on a street corner where someone died by axe, if you walk over this grass, you're going to die by axe. Right, a ghost will strike you in the back of the head with an axe and then vanish. And obviously it's Batman getting to the bottom of this and chasing this guy down. And you can see what I mean, can't you, about the Mulder and Scully line here? Like, you can just imagine Mulder Scully turning up at some unsolved murder, and they're like, it looks like he was hit by an axe, but we got no fingerprints, no this, that, the other, no. And the witnesses just say that he just fell to the floor. None of the witnesses saw anybody, and he was done in broad daylight on whatever street, you know, which is kind of the thing it takes. And what he's doing is he's getting people to do, like, increasingly ridiculous things. Like, he's like ringing the police and giving them a list of demands and saying, you know, people will die if they don't walk around in a red hat and say Batman sucks every hour on the hour kind of thing, you know.
It's kind of like Death Note.
It is a little bit, yeah. But it properly predates Death Note.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, because this
sounds interesting.
But yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, it's I think it's, for me, it just felt very X-Files when I was reading it, and I was like, yeah, this is X-Files. You've got the next story, which is the Executioner War Stiletto Heels, which is kind of Hitman versus Hitman type thing. So a hitman hunting a hitman who had escaped from jail, and when he goes back to jail, he'll be on death row. And this is kind of like a noir detective kind of air to it, with the way Batman sort of has his internal monologues about his dream about a killer wearing stiletto heels or something at the end of the book and whatever. And it's so that one's quite a cool noir story. And then you've got one called The Golem of Gotham, which, for anybody that says that comics should go back to when they weren't political, tell me when they weren't political, because I don't even have to go back that far to find an example of it. Okay, and you know, I can tell you that even back in the 70s, I've got examples that I can give you of comics that have political storylines. But this is this deals with like white supremacists and fascism, and you've got a crime wave hitting Gotham, and it seems to be focused on immigrants from the Indian subcontinent and people in the sort of like the Jewish ghetto of Gotham, basically. So you've got these people going around smashing shop windows, spray painting swastikas on graves and whatever, and it's just basically a group of white supremacists. And you've got this old Jewish guy who decides enough's enough, and you know, like the traditional sort of folklore, the Jewish folklore of the golem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know about that. Yeah, he's so he decides he's going to create a golem, and he creates a golem, and the golem kind of does its thing protecting the ghetto, but then the golem goes rogue. So Batman's kind of caught in the middle of this, stopping the white supremacists, and also he kind of ends up face to face with this golem as well. And he has to stop this golem before it, because it will go rogue and it will destroy the entire city, basically.
Kind of like a Jewish Clayface.
Yeah, but not Clayface, because it can't shape change or anything. It's just this big mass of clay that is, near unstoppable. And that's kind of a cool story, and it's also a kind of a left hook to anyone that says that comics aren't, should go back to when they weren't political, because comics have always been political. Comics been political since day dot.
I mean, they don't need to be political anymore because we don't have Nazis anymore. So, I mean, why would you want it?
Well, yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Right.
No, I think comics have always been a mirror for what is going on politically at the time that the comic is written or drawn. And I think it will continue to be that way. And I think if all comics kind of have it. They have links and roots in what is going on in today's world, and that is that is the way it's always going to be. Comics will have been political and always will be political. So anyone that says that comics should go back to not being political, tell me when.
Anyone who says that about any art form doesn't really understand art.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And then the last story is Identity Crisis, where Bruce Wayne wakes up in the river, soaking wet in a dinner suit, not remembering how he got there. And I'm not going to ruin this one because it's got a real twist in it.
Okay.
So that's where I'm going to leave that. So he goes back to the Batcave, and everyone's like, "Who's Batman? Where's the Batcave?" You know, Alfred is like, "But you're not Batman. You're Bruce Wayne." And Tim Drake's there, and Tim Drake's like, "No, you're not Batman. You're as Batman as I am the Boy Wonder." And that's where I'm going to leave that, because so Bruce Wayne wakes up and he's not Batman anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Batcave's not.
I have to go check out this book.
No, it's
Dark Knight, Dark City. Right?
Dark Knight, Dark City. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, cool.
So I guess we should hit another from your stack now.
Yeah, so just to plough through the remainder of my stack that I read this week. So I picked up Dead of Winter #1 quite a while ago now. I think it was over a month ago.
Yep.
Based purely on the fact that I own the board game that it's based off of.
Yeah.
And I recently picked up Clue, which is also obviously based on Clue or Cluedo, depending on where you're from. And I was really impressed with Clue because it's doing some really clever things with not just the genre that it's based on, so like murder mysteries, but also the medium, so comic books, and the medium of the original IP, so board games, and it does some really clever things with all three elements.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that Dead of Winter would do the same thing. And it basically doesn't, apart from taking the characters, lifting them directly from the quote-unquote story of the board game, which is a very non-linear narrative. Like, you build up this story yourself based on the characters that you pick and the randomized scenarios that that get played out based on your randomized choices. It kind of doesn't do anything that clever with any of the elements that it has to its hand. Like, overall, I'm a little bit disappointed because it's just another zombie apocalypse with slightly tiresome dialogues where everything's kind of a cheap joke and everyone explains their circumstances with a kind of like, quote unquote, as you know, XYZ happened. Like, it's all a little bit cliched. And I think it leans a little bit too heavily on you understanding the characters based on having played the board game already. So, you know the kind of archetypes that they're going for. But,
so what is the Dead of Winter board game? Because I've never actually played it. Oh,
okay. So it's basic. I think it's based on a system called Crossroads. I might be wrong about this, but essentially what happens is you have a bunch of players. You get randomly assigned characters, and as a player, there's a chance that one of the people in your party of players is a betrayer. So everybody has their own individual goals to accomplish. And you play through this scenario of surviving a zombie apocalypse in the winter, night by night, where the resources you have to manage are like fuel and food and waste that results from that food, while also barricading out zombies and going to different destinations outside of your compound to retrieve additional resources. It's really cool and really tense, and occasionally, so every round or every person's turn, you get the chance to draw a Crossroads card, and if certain criteria are filled at that particular moment, you have to enact out this Crossroads card, which basically adds a bit of flavor text to your scenario, and it's all really clever. And I'm kind of disappointed that the comic doesn't have those kind of like twisty elements, or playing with a knowing wink on how a general playthrough of the board game would go. But the one thing that is its saving grace is Sparky the zombie killing superdog, which is on the front cover. So it's basically this gorgeous blonde dog wearing a red cape who is vicious at fucking up zombies. And there are some really cool panels and scenes where Sparky is just annihilating, like ripping through these hordes of zombies. So that's kind of a saving grace.
Yeah.
But overall, like, I kind of don't like the dialogue. I don't really like the scenario. And the art also feels like a little bit flabby and out of place for a zombie apocalypse thing. Maybe I'm being a bit too hard on it. I think if you're a fan of the board game, you would probably enjoy just the association factor, the nostalgia factor, as it were. But yeah,
So-
I don't think I'm going to be picking up number.
Yeah,
2,
I was going to
but
say, I
it's
take
worth
it.
checking.
I take it you won't pick up issue 2.
Nah, probably not.
I'm.
I might pick up the volume once
Yeah.
it's all out, and and see what happens, but not month by month. I'm not that keen on it.
So I'm kind of tired of the whole zombie apocalypse thing myself. Anyway, I think I've seen too much. I've seen too many zombie apocalypses.
Well, that's the thing. I was kind of hoping it would do something different with it because it has the opportunity to be a bit more wry about its subject matter, but I guess it kind of hasn't done that. It's banking on the popularity of the characters from the board game. Like there's a thing that happens towards the end, which aside from Sparky, there's another like fan favorite character who appears. And I think it's, if you don't know who that is, as if you've never played the board game, you wouldn't give a shit. But but I know who it is, so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, right.
But yeah, it's a mixed bag. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who's never played the board game.
Yeah, no,
But
I mean,
if you have, you'd probably love it.
yeah, and like I was saying to you, I guess it's a symptom of the fact that there's so much of it now, but I'm kind of tired of the zombie apocalypse genre now. So
Yeah, I think I'm on
Yeah.
board, but I thought I'd take
Yeah.
a chance.
but yeah, I
And
mean,
then following on from that, I picked up Mech Cadet Yu, which you recommended.
yes,
I think you recommended it a while ago, and I kind of brushed it off for reasons I don't really know of. I can't remember why I didn't pay it much mind. But then I realized that it's
you realised that it was
artist-
yeah,
so yeah, the artist is Takeshi Miyazawa, who is doing. So he did Runaways,
yep.
and he's the artist for the current run of Ms. Marvel. And
Yes.
I love the art for the current run of Ms. Marvel.
Told you he was the Ms. Marvel artist. That's what made you buy it.
That's what made me buy it. Once I like that. If you'd have told me, I think you mentioned it the first time and it just didn't register.
Yeah.
And I looked at it again. I was like, oh, dude, that's the Ms. Marvel guy. So I picked it up based on the strength of that. The artwork is gorgeous, man. Like this is, it reminds me of a manga.
Yeah.
Where there's big bold panels with a focus on like the visual clarity and kind of less reliance on verbal or narrated exposition, which is
Yeah.
another thing I've been complaining
And
about all this week.
You get this really nice establishing of an environment with it, which it does very well.
It does a really good job of expressing what's happening in this world.
Yeah,
And considering it's kind of an out there scenario, so basically every 4 years, robots from outer space land on Earth to bond with a human, generally a cadet in this space academy. And so our protagonist is a young janitor. I think he's Cantonese because he's speaking to, like an older janitor in Cantonese.
Yeah.
And it's basically about him, like escaping from his circumstances as a trod upon janitor because all the rest of or at least one cadet in the building that he works at is really shitty to him.
She's
and,
super elitist.
Super elitist, super entitled.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically about him being given this opportunity that she, and I expect at least a big portion of the rest of the cadets don't think he deserves. Like he's rising above his station, but it's like you were saying, the way the art works and how it establishes the setting really well. How he bonds with this robot that comes from outer space it's done in such like deft ways that don't require wordiness. It's not about them expressing their admiration for each other. There's some really tangible physical things they do which just expresses really early on how they have a rapport.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And like what I love about it is that it's a normal length comic, but not a lot happens. But I'm drawn in more than I am with some comics where they stuff in action and they stuff in narrative and exposition.
Yeah.
This one, it's a very clear thing. Like it expresses who he is, where the robots are coming from. Sort of an antagonist in this character of Park that says some pretty nasty things to our protagonist Yu, and then like sort of leaves you wanting for the next one without too much of a cliffhanger. And I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait for the next one to come out because just everything about it is perfect, I think.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah,
it's Greg.
I mean, total love letter to 70s or like 80s mecha anime.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that's the thing that grabbed me about it. It's just like this is everything I love about mecha anime and mecha manga. So yeah.
Yeah, all the mechs are like colourful and blocky and kind of like they feel like they'd be made out of die-cast metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And he's even got an action figure. He even carries an action figure around him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Or like a homemade action figure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I do love this story.
Yeah. And I didn't mention that the writer is Greg Pak, who also did World War Hulk.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. So, I think that's a quality combo there.
Next thing I had that I just wanted to address was the fact that Ghostbusters 101 has come to an end. So we've had Ghostbusters 101 number 6. So we've had a finale for that. And
so, a bunch of endings for your favourite things then.
Yeah, but I mean it's bittersweet because, you know, I love this finale. It's the perfect finale to a really great story. And I like the way it's been done. I like the way that Dan Schoening and Burnham write this stuff. I like the way they work on it. I think they've done a real service actually to the Ghostbusters franchise as far as the comics are concerned, because I really like the way they write, and I love their, you know, the humour in their writing, and I love the artwork. It's fantastic. This is classic material, and I'm going to end up buying the trade. I know I am, because I want it to go with the rest of my Ghostbusters trades. They've done wonderful things with the franchise, as I keep saying, and I am excited to see more from them. I'm pretty sure that won't be the end. I'm hoping we're going to get more Schoening and Burnham Ghostbusters, because I really like it. And off the back of this, the Answer the Call team from the latest Ghostbusters film are going to be getting their own movie. So just to kind of refresh your memory of what Ghostbusters 101 was, the Ghostbusters have started taking sort of people like cadets as a way to sort of bring income in. They've started charging people for a kind of a Ghostbusters experience. This is like Venkman's idea. So they come into the ghost house, the Ghostbusters house, and they with the firehouse even, and they get a tour of the firehouse. They get kind of like a once over of the equipment. They get to have a go on the equipment and, you know, catch a ghost in controlled circumstances and whatever, so nothing can go wrong. And it's also a kind of sneaky way to sort of like get people primed and ready to help if they need extra people, kind of thing, you know. So he's got this one of them is Janine's niece, I think. So he's got these people coming in and like checking stuff out, and then they're kind of like interns as well. So he's got these people doing the experience, then he's got these interns as well. So they've got interns that they're teaching to kind of, who will kind of like take on the Ghostbusters and probably end up being extra help for the Ghostbusters. That is what Janine's niece is. She's one of the interns, and what they do is they go down into the containment unit area, where they've got this interdimensional portal that has been playing a role in a lot of the recent Ghostbusters stories, where what they've done is they've drawn the different parts of the Ghostbusters franchise together and said, well, it's a multiverse, which I really like the idea of. That's how they've pulled everything together. So the animated series, the real Ghostbusters, the animated series, the original movies, Extreme Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which I think was the tagline for the latest film, was it?
I'm not sure. I'll take your word for it.
They call them the Answer the Call team anyway. So it's all actually a multiverse, and this is all happening at the same time. So when they originally busted Gozer in Ghostbusters 1, what they did was they created this kind of like shattered multiverse.
Okay.
And this interdimensional portal has given them a way to explore this, or a way to communicate with other Ghostbusters from other versions of New York. Obviously, there's also the crossover with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because they go to a version of New York that has the mutants, that has the turtles in one of the. So I've got that trade as well. But they end up crossing over. Basically, these interns are fooling around with this portal, and a ghost gets stuck between the Answer the Call universe and the original Ghostbusters universe, and the two universes end up drawn together and they collide. And you've got the Answer the Call team working with the original Ghostbusters team to sort of right this wrong and split the two universes apart again and put everything back to as it was. And I thought it was really nicely handled and really cool. I mean, I've never seen the latest Ghostbusters film, but I like the way that Burnham and Schoening have written the characters in this. I like the way that the characters appear in this, and I might actually watch it, because I know when I saw the trailer for it, I originally thought, oh, I don't like this it felt off. The humour felt off. I think I've mentioned this before, but it didn't feel like it was going to be what I knew as Ghostbusters. It didn't feel like a Ghostbusters film when I watched the trailer. The humour didn't feel right. It just didn't feel. But I like the character. Having read this, I'm thinking, okay, I'm now kind of curious about it because the characters in this appear really cool. So I might go back and watch it now. But yeah, I mean, off the back of this as well, the Answer the Call team are getting their own comic.
Cool.
And that is like so the Answer the Call team, for those of you, it's like Holtzman and company basically. They're going to have their own comic, which is going to be by Kelly Thompson, who is who's done the Gem and the Holograms comic for IDW, and Corin Howell, and it's like a limited 5-issue series starring the new crew. So
sweet.
Yeah, and that's off the back of this basically. So this is like how they've introduced them, and then they're getting their own comic for a while, which I might pick up and just see how it is, basically see how that reads.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I think what you said, like I think they do these characters a bit of a disservice in that 2016 film.
They do, yeah. I think that 2016 film isn't. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that they do them a disservice because I've not watched the film, but I know that from watching the trailer, I wasn't that enamoured with the idea of that film because it just didn't feel right. The humour in the trailer, the jokes and everything, it just didn't feel like a Ghostbusters film to me.
Yeah, I mean, without getting too deep into it, it's fine. It was entertaining. I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, so maybe I should go back and watch it then. But yeah, the Ghostbusters 101 finale, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. So I liked that. That was cool. I guess should address the elephant in the room. The two things that we've been following that we usually get quite excited about, which is Shirtless Bear Fighter and Winnebago Graveyard, and both of them are on number 3 now.
Both of them are number 3.
Yes.
Yeah, Shirtless Bear Fighter. This book is ridiculous. I love it.
Oh my god, yes. Shirtless Bear Fighter number 3. So they appear to have found his one weakness.
They have.
They've put him in a shirt. Oh no! I just love how instantly.
Shirted bear fighter.
I love how it saps his power so much that they can tie him up using toilet paper.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go to I think when we start hitting, say, number 3 or number 4 of these new things that we're picking up, it kind of becomes a little redundant to explain what's happening in each one. But needless to say, I think like the humor and the quality of this is still as good as it was in issue number 1.
Yeah.
I think maybe when it gets to the end of a volume, we can come back and like address the whole thing in retrospect. But yeah, man, there's some really clever, funny bits in this. I like the world building it's doing.
Yeah.
And there's this, it's kind of like doing a Marvel style universe of bears and other creepy creatures and like warfare, which doesn't actually make sense with history.
You've got like black magic infused bacon. You've got you've got solid gold toilets. You've got
you've got the most disturbing Bond villain gloats to his captured to his capturer speech ever. It's amazing.
I thought that was fantastic. I actually had like the sort of classic villain score in my head when that was happening as well.
Yeah, it's like a whole Blofeld thing going on.
Yeah, my evil plan will come to fruition type thing. Something else comes to fruition in that scene as well, but yeah. No, it's great.
My favourite thing about this, again, I'm trying hard not to spoil stuff, but Shirtless's hilarious escape method is my favourite thing in this entire comic. It's weird. Yeah.
No, I do honestly think it's brilliant. I love it.
And then Winnebago Graveyard, yeah?
Yeah.
So same thing, without getting too much in, especially now because Winnebago Graveyard is a 4-part story, and this is the 3rd of 4. Like, things happen. I think one thing that's been great about this comic so far is something always happens. It's not dragging its heels.
It's the pacing is perfect, pretty much. And this thing I want to say about it walks and it fucking takes faces. And this book has some of my favourite things committed to panel, I think. And I think you know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and so the fight for survival has truly begun. The blood has started to flow. It's gore time. This is like the part of the horror movie that you're just like, yes! And there are parts of this book where, like, the panel layout, I don't know about you, but it reminds me of, like, stacked crime scene Polaroids. It's got kind of like that. Yeah, because the way they kind of like the panels kind of like sort of fold or overlap. they feel like they're shapes beneath shapes. So when I was looking at it, I was like, they're like stack of Polaroids, like crime scene Polaroids, which I thought was pretty cool.
I like that concept. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, and I think that really adds to the mood as well. And
yeah, definitely.
The art, as always, is stunning. And in some panels, there's like a really good use of wide-angle perspective that sort of like pushes the feeling of unease, and it pulses dread, and it gives you that feeling in the pit of your stomach, which is like the reason, I guess, that you watch these films, and the reason you would read a book like this is to feel that nausea. I guess that's what you get from horror films, and that's what you want, right?
And then immediately after how it, this third of 4 parts concludes, I think it might be an alternate cover or just some fan art or some other art related to the plot, but there's like a really cutesy version of our lead heroine being surrounded by blood and bones and gore, and it's adorable. It's just adorable.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just overall, the whole thing is a pretty like well put together package.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing so far has been pretty well put together, and yeah, when the trade drops. But yeah, I mean,
I think it's a must-have.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. I'm loving it so far, and like I said, the way this thing is laid out and the pacing on it is absolutely perfect. You can tell that it has been written by somebody who is deep horror fan, like, because they know exactly what they're doing and they know what notes to hit and when to hit them, and it's just like it's a symphony. It really is. But yeah.
So were there any other ongoings that you wanted to mention? Because I've got like maybe 4 that I'd like to very briefly touch on.
Yeah, I mean, like, from this week, we've got All-Star Batman, which it's at number 13, and the current arc, this is going to be like the finale for All-Star Batman, by the way, as well. So after this, All-Star Batman finishes, which, why? But yeah, this is going to be, and I think Snyder said it's going to be his last Batman comic for a while. I don't know if he means that, but I'm pretty sad about that because I like Snyder writing Batman. He's great. But this arc deals with Alfred. It's pretty Alfred-centric. It's called the First Ally. It sort of deals with Alfred's past and his time as his time in the the intelligence, UK intelligence agencies and things like that, and yeah, where he got all his training and everything else, and somebody from Alfred's past comes back to haunt them, and that's what this seems to be about. So I'm really loving this at the moment. I'm loving how I like it because it's Alfred centric, and you don't usually hear a lot about Alfred. I mean, you hear whispers about it, like, okay, my time in the UK military has allowed me to, as a medic, has given me the ability to patch up Batman every night when he comes home ripped to shreds. But now we're actually getting to see some of that, and we're getting to see where this comes from. We're getting to see Alfred as his when he was part of the intelligence agencies and things like that, which I don't want to spoil too much, but it's really cool. Okay. And there's a second story in it as well, which is Batman versus the Russian Mafia, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah, how can that not be good?
Yeah. But yeah,
so for the ones I was going to just very briefly touch on, Crosswind number 3, still enjoying that. I think that's getting better and better as it goes along. Secret Weapons number 3, which I didn't like as much as the first 2, but I think it's just an unfortunate lull as it builds to the next big plot point. So I'm going to keep going on with that. The artwork's still gorgeous. I think it's definitely not bad. It just didn't grip me as much as the last few did. Saga number 46, which is just fucking heartbreaking. Yeah. And Sex Criminals number 20, which is also kind of heartbreaking, but for very different reasons. So, I mean, if you're fans of those, they're still great. All 4 of them.
Stuff that's coming out when this episode is published. So this will be out on Wednesday, the 6th of September. And the things you can buy on Wednesday, the 6th of September. We've got Batman number 30, which is going to be a continuation of the current arc, which is the War of Jokes and Riddles, which I've, if you listen to last episode, Greg rescinds his previous comments about this arc and professes his dying love for it. Got Elsewhere 2, which I picked up the first one. I can't remember if I've talked about it or not on here. Have I?
I'm not sure.
Might have been something I've not talked about yet, but when this one comes out, I'll buy this, read it, and I'll probably talk about 1 and 2.
Okay.
If I've not already talked about it. But it's great. It's kind of like Pilot finds herself in alternate dimension is without spoiling it.
Okay.
And we've also got some stuff that you shoved on there, which is we've got Lark's Killer number 2, Spiritus number 2, Runaways 2017 number 1, Venomverse number 1. So like the Marvel Venomverse thing.
Which I'm not endorsing as something that I really want to read. I'm just saying
it's something that you guys might want. Yeah,
it's something that's coming out on the 6th.
John Wick comic starts. John Wick number 1,
which is something I am very interested in.
Yes,
that looks amazing. Scales
and Scoundrels number 1, which is kind of like an all ages fantasy story, which looks really cool. Dastardly and Muttley number 1, which I'm intrigued by because I don't know. Obviously, I don't know much about what's going to happen with this, but it looks kind of like. I like how hyper real, the cover of the book when you see the cover preview.
Yeah. I've literally only seen the cover.
That's all I've seen, just the cover.
Yeah.
Wake up, Muttley, you're dreaming again. I hope it starts with that. I really do. I hope it starts. If I buy it tomorrow and it starts with "Wake up, Muttley, you're dreaming again. You're not Robin Hood and you're not Gunga Din. You're just plain old Muttley, the sniggering hound." No, Lazaretto number 1, which I don't know much of. What is that? If you just enlighten me.
Just based on the strength of the cover, it's a Boom comic, written by Clay Chapman, art by Jay Levang. Something about a pandemic striking in a dorm complex in an American college.
Yes,
looks interesting. Yeah,
and we've also got Captain Phasma number 1, which I'm not a reader of Star Wars comics, but I think I'm going to pick this up because I want to know more about Phasma. Not Rogue One, sorry. Oh my gosh. Force Awakens, that's it. The other one.
She got short thrift in Force Awakens.
She did.
I kind of want to know more about the character.
That's it. That's what we want. We want to know more about Captain Phasma. So hopefully this is the place to do it. But yeah. And then on the 13th of September, which is the following Wednesday, we've got a lot of our regulars coming out. So we've got Mr. Miracle number 2, we've got Dark Knight's Metal number 2, Curse Words number 8, Redlands number 2, Destroyer number 5, and Winnebago Graveyard number 4, which is the conclusion.
Yeah, can't wait.
Okay, so on to the questions. So first question, they didn't give us a name, but he or she has given us this pretty good question, actually, I think. And it's something that I guess we should probably address. So, hey, Ace Comicals, I've been enjoying the podcast and it's got me thinking, in our current climate of hot takes, where everything is either awesome or sucks, and with time being as fleeting as it is, how do you guys go about choosing which new comics to invest your time in, and how do you find out about them, and what elements, art, cover, names, publisher, genre, etc. pique your interest the most? So that comes from Anonymous.
That's a good question. Right, okay, so my methods have changed a lot since we started this podcast. So I've been making more of a habit of going to the comic book shop every week and actually buying stuff physical, which gives me an idea of what actually exists on the shelves better than I used to know. Before, I would just buy stuff digitally off Comixology and just basically follow the things that I was interested in already.
Yeah.
Now I kind of see something and see, oh, there's like an issue number 5 of something I never heard of. And I can, if not buy a trade that exists already, at least keep an eye out for when a trade will exist, or maybe go back and purchase the issue separately, either on paper if I really like the covers, or just digitally in bulk when I see them on sale on Comixology or something.
I see.
So there's that. Also, I spend more time looking at the weekly releases than I ever used to. So I used to use generally just Googling for this week's comic releases and see whichever page came out first. But I recently signed up to a website called League of Comic Geeks as a way of tracking not just what's coming out each week, but also what I would like to put on my pull list. And the reason I like this more than anything else I've used is that you can actually see the covers as you're picking them out. And the website's a little bit janky, and the app is definitely pretty janky, but it's pretty good for just, perusing through the covers of what you might like, and then picking out the specific variant that you would want, so you can have a list in front of you when you go to the shop and, match the picture to the cover and make sure you get the right thing.
See, carry on.
No,
sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I'm quite a little bit old school. So I look at the week's releases. I go to Diamond Publishing, which is like the supplier of comics for a lot of places. It's like the biggest supplier, isn't it? So I go to the Diamond Publishing website and I look at that week's releases and I sort of like compile a list from there. And when I go into the comic shop, I know what I'm looking for, so I just sort of pick them off the shelf from that. Either that or I've seen something, because I've obviously been surfing the net and I've seen something that's going to be released, like a preview or whatever, and then I've gone in and spoken to the dudes in the comic store and asked them to put it on my pull list for me so they can save it for me, so when I come in, it's in my folder and I can get it. So I have like a kind of... I mean, if you go to most comic stores, will allow you to have like a folder where they will save certain comics for you and they'll have a pull list.
I think I'm going to have to start doing that more now.
Yeah.
Because I've had a few instances lately where I've not been able to find the one thing that I wanted, and if I'd just asked them, they would have set one aside for me.
Yeah.
So I'll need to start doing that. And also, like, every comic book shop that I go to, and I normally go to Gosh now because it's the easiest one for me to get to at lunch from work, but there's also Orbital Comics near Leicester Square in London, and the Big Forbidden Planet, which is, around the corner. All of them are great. Like, everybody in there is really helpful, and especially in Orbital and Gosh, where you can tell everyone who works there is really into what they do and they really love their comics. They're always very helpful in picking out recommendations and explaining what things are. So I think I might need to spend... I wish I had more time when I went to the shops to actually talk about comics more often. So I might have to start going at the weekends, getting to know these guys, because they do seem to know their stuff.
See, I go to Forbidden Planet Leicester. It's the only comic shop in Leicester at the moment, and there's a really great team there, to be honest, and they're really good. They're always very helpful. They'll always, do their best to source something for you if they haven't got it and things like that. So they're really cool, and they've got my pull list on file, so I can go in there and they, if I ask them to save something, they'll save it for me, which I know, which is pretty cool. I do like it.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to like physically going into the shop, the best thing. I mean, I'm a sucker for picking up issues based on just the cover.
Yeah, I do.
I've picked up so many random things where I've not even read some of them yet. I just love the artwork in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've fallen for it in a bad way where I love the cover art and it turns out it's a variant, or it doesn't actually match what's inside, and then, doesn't really pique my interest. But sometimes I've been really surprised by it. I think I mentioned Crosswind was one where I picked it up because the cover looked cool. I didn't even know who Gail Simone was at the time, but I've come to understand her work a lot since then. Kind of disappointed by the artwork when I initially looked at it, and then came to love it. So, I guess just be open to things.
I guess, as simple as it is, as simple as it's going to sound, the way I choose comics when I buy comics is I look at first thing that grabs you obviously is the colour, because it's very visual. So I'm a very visual person, so the first thing I do is see a cover and go, that looks pretty awesome, and then I'll kind of like glean the subject matter from that. So I'll go, okay, so what is this, like what genre is this? And the next thing I'll do is look at the genre and I'll go, okay, yeah, so that kind of fits the kind of thing I'm into. It's horror. I like horror. I'll pick up the horror book. Third thing is like I guess if I see a writer that I know or an artist that I like, or if the cover's by an artist that I like, I'll pick the book up and then I'll read it. And when I get home and read it, I mean, obviously I'll read the first issue. If I'm not into it after the first issue, if I'm thinking I don't really like this, I won't pick up the second one. And that's how I decide what to invest in and what not to. I guess again, I'm pretty old school in the fact that I don't really tend to read a lot of reviews and a lot of hype surrounding stuff. I mean, sometimes if I want to know about something, I'll seek out a review. If there's something coming and I know it's coming and I want to know about it before I get it, and I want to know what to expect, I'll seek out a review. Usually if it's something big and blockbustery. But if it's like small, I don't often seek out reviews or previews. I sometimes just come across them and think, hey, that looks really cool, and then I'll buy it off the strength of what I've seen. But most of the time it's literally seeing it and thinking, okay, premise of that sounds all right. I think I might go and I might pick that up, and then picking it up and then reading it, and if I don't like it, I don't like it. I don't buy issue 2. So that's how I decide what to invest my time in. I give everything a chance.
I think for me, like there's a sub question there about choosing what to invest your time in. I think I touched on this earlier, where just depending on my mood, I think I'm in a phase right now where I don't want the heavy, dense stuff, and I want the slightly more popcorn, slightly more instant gratification, heartwarming, fulfilling kind of comics. And I think I'm okay. I've let myself be okay with setting aside certain things, like Gone Generation, where I know I'd be interested. I just don't have it in me right now to get to it. Set it aside and wait till I'm in the mood for it.
The minute I read the first issue of Generation Gone, I was thinking that is something that you would be into.
And I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'd love it. I just haven't found the space for that particular thing to be read, like that.
No, somehow I always manage to find time to read comics. I don't know if it's just like a habit thing now, but it's just, if I've got like 10 minutes, so I look at a clock and I'm like, okay, so I've got 15 minutes before I have to leave the house. I can fit a comic in 15 minutes. So I'll just go home to read a comic cover to cover in 15 minutes before I have to leave.
That's a great attitude.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. The other thing I did want to mention is I've been a lot more active on Twitter and the internet in general since we started this.
Yeah.
I've been following a lot more writers and been following a lot more artists. And from that, you get to see a lot of their retweets about things that they like or things that they appreciate. And I've discovered loads through that. Like just the other day, if you've been following my Twitter, I was complaining that I spotted some artwork that I just caught my eye and I really loved, so I went to go grab a piece of paper to write it down with. I don't know why I didn't just copy and paste the link or whatever, but by the time I came back, my Twitter had refreshed and I'd lost it, and I spent a good 10-15 minutes
trawling for it.
It was ridiculous because like it had moved place in the thing where it was, or maybe the page had loaded from a previous session and then refreshed while I'd gone, or something happened. It was so frustrating. I eventually found it again, and I'm going to pick up some manga by this artist that was retweeted by another comic book webcomic artist that I also like, and it's just this whole cascading thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Also,
the magic, the infuriatingness, and the curse of social media, the three things you've just touched on there.
Like this transient thing where it's just like it's a never-ending thing. But you kind of just have to dip in.
It's great for getting things just thrown at your face. Like you will catch things on social media because you'll just open Twitter and all of a sudden, bam, there's something there that you might want to read, and it's just sort of thrown at you. And social media is a great way to find out about this stuff. Like it's kind of like word of mouth, but it's I guess it is just like the new way of word of mouth. I guess it's like the new flesh for word of mouth. Yeah.
But if there was like a million mouths all shouting amazing things at you at the same time, it's awful and brilliant at the same time. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I guess so that's kind of how I decide. Really, it's kind of a combination of all of those things: art, cover, names, publisher, genre. One or two of those things appeals to me, then I'll probably buy the book, and then if I read it and like it, I'll buy the next one.
Yeah, I think I subscribe to that model, and that doesn't work for everyone. Like I've got a colleague who is very picky about the things that she likes, so she comes with me every week, and I point to her and say, "Here's something I think you might enjoy," and then she'll check it out, she'll have a look, and if it's not for her, she won't pick it up. And I think that's fair enough. She knows what she likes, and she'll stick to it, and hopefully, maybe one day she'll. And that's not necessarily. Horizons will expand. It's not. No, I don't think it's bad at all. I actually quite admire that.
It is. Yeah.
She doesn't have this need to just check out every brand new shiny thing, which I do.
Yeah, not necessarily a bad way to be, because as Anonymous says, time is fleeting. So
fleeting.
Yeah, it's time is precious to everyone, especially when you hold down a full-time job and things like that, or maybe you've got a family to look after or whatever else. So you're always going to you have to divide your time up, and the time you get to yourself is precious. So you don't want to spend that on something that you think sucks, or you got to find time for the things you love. Exactly,
well. That's really important.
So you've got to be careful with your time. You've got to be careful with where you spend that. And I think the way your friend does that, way she picks comics, is a good way to do it, I think. But obviously, like I said, our model doesn't work for everything. Giving everything a chance and then keeping what you like, kind of thing.
Yeah, also I think we just like collecting stuff.
Yeah.
Like having stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I living in a tiny London flat, I miss having lots of stuff around me. But comic books are like flat and thin, and I can keep a lot of them in one box.
I'm quite lucky that I've got a very understanding girlfriend, and we've got a spare converted, we've got like an attic conversion in the house that we're currently in. So
your man cave.
Yes, I've got it all set up with my comics up here, and everything else that's kind of like my escapism, my thing, my video games, my comic books, I've got video games downstairs as well. I've got my PS4 on the big TV downstairs, but up here I've got my retro games. I can come up here and be 10 again and play Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive, Yeah.
Well, you say that. That leads us on very nicely to our next question.
Yes.
We just received a text from Leon.
Yes.
Who is, I don't know, he must have found some space in between battling Jubilee and Cyclops in the danger
room. Signal in the danger room.
Yeah, he must be like, I can imagine him holding his phone up in the air trying to send us this text.
There's just explosions and eye blasts and like fireworks going off in the background, and there's Leon just walking around looking at the bars on his phone, just like looking for signal.
So anyway, he sends us this question. He's like, what are your let me say that again. What are your guys' current reading setups? Does it include snacks or beverages? Maybe some ambient music to set the tone? Does it differ depending on medium? I'm a fan of sitting back in my desk chair with my feet up, beverage within arm's reach, and headphones on, playing appropriate mood films. Bloody hell, come on, Leon. I'm a fan of sitting back in my desk chair with my feet up, beverage in arm's reach, and headphones on, playing appropriate mood film scores. P.S. What are your dream reading setups? No limits.
Okay, so my current reading setup. So I guess I have like this a coffee table in the middle of the attic, and when I get my new comics, I take them out of the carry bag, just drop them in the middle of the coffee table. So I've got a beanbag, and I either sit on the beanbag or on the floor cross-legged. Sometimes I'll sit in my office chair thing at my computer, but I'm not too into the chair. Like I don't know why, I just like sitting on the floor. Like when I'm downstairs playing video games, like the whole sofa's free. So like my girlfriend will walk into the room and she'll just see me sat on the floor with the PS4 pad in my hand. I just do this thing, I just sit on the floor. So I kind of sit on the floor back against the wall, or I'll kind of sit on the beanbag and I'll read that way, or I'll lie down on the beanbag and hold the comic above my head. And I mean, it depends on what time of day it is and things like that, because I mean, like in the evenings or at night, I might have a beer. So there'll be like a beverage there. I'm not really one for snacks because I don't like touching like snacks and food and then touching my comics.
Oh god, yeah. 100%.
So like bags of crisps and things like that are a no. You know, you don't do that. Why would you do that?
Can I interject? What I started doing, I found this on, I think it must have been a YouTube video or something.
Yeah.
But if you really need snacks, and I don't do this at all often,
yeah.
But when I really want a snack while I'm reading my comics, I'll get a bowl of crisps and use chopsticks.
Oh.
So I pick them up and eat them. Which works amazingly well. Like,
no.
I think it's a genius idea.
Yeah.
And it depends on how good you are at using chopsticks.
Yeah.
But it works for me. So
I'm not a massive snack person when I'm reading. If I'm reading, I'm there to read. I might have a drink with me, but that's it. So depending on time of day, it can be like sometimes it's a beer, sometimes it's a can of Coke, sometimes it's a glass of water. Depends on what kind of weather it is. I mean, like I don't usually have any background noise. I guess if it's raining outside, I can hear that, but I'm not one for putting noise on in the background. I mean, sometimes I mean, the other night I was sitting there. I was actually reading downstairs. I was sitting on the sofa with my Batman book and a cup of coffee. This was Sunday evening, and I put YouTube on smart TV, and I had like storm noises on in the background, so I was sitting listening.
Like white noise.
Yeah, white noise stuff. Yeah, if I'm gonna do it, I can't have like. I've put metal on before, and I've put music on before, but I kind of find it a little bit distracting sometimes to have a song with lyrics on in the background.
Yeah,
I mean,
I find that
I tend to favour either white noise or slower stuff, so like acoustic music. Things that like Alice in Chains, like the Sap EP or Jar of Flies, that kind of stuff, depressing-y, bluesy guitar, like acoustic guitar kind of grunge or kind of that kind of flavour, like Nirvana Unplugged type stuff. That stuff's good for reading. Or I don't have any music at all, or I listen to white noise. Mainly though, no music at all, sat on the floor on a beanbag. My dream reading setup, I don't know. I think I'd like maybe I've seen pictures of it where people have like a kind of like a corner with a window,
like
a huge window. Yeah,
those are gorgeous.
Something like that where I've got all my comics in reach. So where I can just like, maybe even like part of that nook would be a bookshelf, and I'd have like a shelf in front of me of trades, and I could just like lean up and reach for another trade, or I'd have like a small side table next to me with my comics stacked up, and someone else to bag and board them for me when I'm done reading them.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Somebody else to sit there, and like when I'm done reading it, I just pass it to that person. That person bags it and boards it and puts it in the box for me. because it's the doing that afterwards sometimes, especially when there's so many. Like if you let them build up, and you've got like a stack of like 20 of them to do, and you're just like, oh.
Like Alfred's less qualified younger brother. It's just all he does for you is bag and board your comics.
Yeah.
Very unfulfilling life.
He was in NMI5, but he worked at Forbidden Planet for a while.
Just a really bad black mark on his CV. Just like, oh, you've got great credentials and everybody speaks very highly of you, but you worked for Forbidden Planet, so we just can't accept you, unfortunately.
Whoa! What's wrong with Forbidden Planet?
Just for the sake of the joke.
Yeah.
Greg.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with Forbidden Planet.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, what your current setup? So you eat crisps with chopsticks.
If I want to, I'll use chopsticks because it stops your comics from getting greasy. Right. So the thing you need to know about me, right, is I'm never comfortable. Like,
right.
And apparently, I don't realize when I'm doing this, but even when I think I'm comfortable, I'm really tense. Like everyone points that out to me. Say, why are you sitting with your shoulders hunched? Why are you so why is everything tense? And I feel like I'm relaxing. Evidently, I'm not. So this is a hard one for me to answer. Like, right, okay. So a lot of my comic reading gets done on the tube. So on my commute to and from work, if I'm reading comics on my iPad, I'll do it on the tube because that's where I feel I get most of my reading in general done. I don't feel like I can read novels when I'm at home because I feel like I could be doing any of the things that I can only do at home.
See, I view comics as a thing I can only do at home because I don't really get time to read anywhere else, and I don't have the kind of commute where I can sit and read.
Well, yeah, I'm in the quote-unquote fortunate position to have an hour commute every day, an hour there and an hour back.
Yeah.
And if I'm lucky enough to get a seat, I'll read a novel, or I'll play on my phone, or I'll play a Vita game or a Switch game or something, or I'll read a comic book. Reading physical comics is like a definite no-no on the tube. I'll never buy paper comics and read it on the tube because I need to have like something to place them on. I like to have a flat surface.
Right.
So my other option for reading comic books, if I'm reading them non-digitally, would be either on the sofa with like a flat lid to my comic book box, so I can lay out the current book that I'm reading, or like I've got a laptop stand and I put my comic books on there, so I don't have to flatten it, but at least I don't have to touch the paper. It sounds really pedantic.
A music stand would be good for that.
Music stand, maybe, or a music stand that was all, it wasn't sharp metal and it wasn't made out of plate metal or anything. Yeah, maybe that would work. That sounds like a cool idea.
Plastic music stand.
No, go on.
A plastic music stand would be good.
Yeah, maybe. I've got a laptop stand that serves the same function. So either that, or I'll be sat on my sofa with the arm to my right. Yeah. So I can have the comic book on my lap and then my notepad on the arm of the chair, so I can make my notes and stuff. And then the other alternative is either at my desk or on an armchair, so I can make notes in my notebook. Yeah. And I mean, if anything, this question's made me realize that I should probably try and identify what works for me better. Like, actually sit down and think about what I actually find comfortable, because I guess I don't really think about it. I've never really considered it. It's more a pragmatic thing. I don't consider comfort as like a primary factor.
I've got this image of you now walking around your flat with a tape measure and then like trawling IKEA for solutions and things, and just like
I mean, maybe I should. I don't know. But then, okay, so going on to my dream setup. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen those sleeping bags, but the sleeping bags have individual arms and legs. Yeah. So it's basically like a body suit, but like fluffy and warm. Yeah. I've always wanted one of those. I'd love to have that, but sat at a really large desk, because right now I have a very small corner desk, and I like I have a very sad grown-up fantasy of a big desk for my computer and with lots of space in front of me to be able to lay out like a couple of comic books and my notepad at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'd have like a coffee machine to my right and like lighting controls to my left because my eyes get itchy if, the lighting conditions aren't perfect. Like automated curtains and stuff like that. That would be perfect. I just sat in a little sleeping bag and just reading on a comfortable, clean, clear surface sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean,
that or as you said, a reading nook, because I kind of like that claustrophobic feel. I like being curled up with a good book.
I like having
if I could,
like a dedicated, like a dedicated space that you click into, like sitting in, like you just sort of tessellate into it, and it's like it's against your back, it's against your legs. You fit there, and you are forced into comfort.
Yeah, that's a great. Being forced into comfort is exactly what I need, because apparently I can't do it on my own. That sounds ideal. If I can be tense and comfortable at the same time, perfect.
Because
what I need is like a triangle pillow to go like in the nook of my knee, so like I've got the whole like the correct posture,
complete support. Yeah,
that sounds great.
See, we've gone really
like when you get like styrofoam packaging.
Yeah,
you pull a new TV out of a box and it's got this perfectly molded polystyrene.
Yeah,
that's what I just want to slip sideways into that and be able to read a book.
See, I don't know what Leon was hoping kind of answer we'd give, but we've gone really, really grounded and really grown up with this.
Slipping sideways into styrofoam is grounded and grown up. While I like struggle to move my arm to use my chopsticks to pick up some what's-it.
See, I'm like leaning out of the styrofoam. It's like making that horrible noise as you sort of lean your face out of it to get the what's-it. And there's like when you go back into the styrofoam, there's a bit cut out where your eyes are, so you can see the comic in front of you. With
like Nirvana's "Man Who Sold the World" playing in the background because you like that. Man who sold the.
No.
On that note,
that sounds like hell.
Yeah. You put it there.
No, but like So I don't know what Leon was hoping for, but we've come up with reading a hell, being forced to eat snacks with chopsticks in perfectly fitted styrofoam, listening to Nirvana's "The Man Who Sold the World" on repeat.
Just that one line over and over and over again.
No, just that bit of guitar, and it never goes any further than that. That's where it ends. Okay,
Let's end this here.
Let's just end it here, because that's it. That's enough. It's the fact you put no limits on the end of that question, and we gave ourselves limits. We gave ourselves the limit of reality, and why did we do that? But anyway, that sort of wraps us up for today. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com. You can find us on WordPress, which is acecomicals.wordpress.com. You can find us on iTunes or Pocket Casts or whatever podcast app you use to listen. We're pretty. You just search Ace Comicals, I guess you'll be able to find us. You can find us. You can find me on Twitter at Batou, Battou. You can ask us a question. You can ask me a question on Twitter, or you can field a question to Ace Comicals through my Twitter. You can do it on a DM, or you can send questions directly to acecomicals.gmail.com. Rahul, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, so that's at Moonker, at MOONKEH. And like you said, the hub for everything to find us is acecomicals.com.
Yeah.
You can access our iTunes, Pocket Cast, WordPress, everything has a link on that page.
That is like, website. Yeah. So that if you go to acecomicals.com, just the hub, you'll be able to find everything from there. So yeah, that was Ace Comicals number 17. Thanks for listening. Ace Comicals over and out.